applying, or you can go online to www.apoetsagora.com and you go down, there's the icon residency 2020. So, and since the residency happened in this beautiful house, I'm going to read very quickly a poem that she wrote about the house, because the house is the home of the event, and the house is also the home of the resident. So it's a very short poem. It's called Consent. I wake up in the middle of an Athenian humid night, while the sun and her flowers were asleep. The notes of a Greek ballad were fading from under an ancient sycamore tree. As day's consequences gradually grip people's mind at night, I wake from sleep to a dreadful dream. I wake to an era that I've only read in history. I wake to the raging roar of fascist rape in Greece. I hear the whispers of poets past from this neoclassical building of 1837. I hear their silent sighs coming out of layers of anxiety. I hear people fighting back fearlessly. I hear their noises of resistance outside and cheers at an ultimate victory. As I open eyes in my bed, they meet two huge, heavy, rectangular gray shutters. They don't shut back, rather open, gasping at me. I tread tenderly on the wooden floor. I place my weight softly on their footmarks to keep from erasing the inscriptions. The music, I barely burden them with my responsibility to reincarnation. And yet, they give me a positive push from below. From the dark basement, they give me affirmation to tell their story, rebuild their untold world for words for restoration. So that was about the residency. Now we're here tonight for our three poets. And I just want to say before I give them the floor that it's always such a difficult task, and it's always Angela and myself to meet so many wonderful talents that are in Athens. It's such a vivid place for poetry. It's amazing. And it's frustrating to be able to bring only three poets to you every time, but I think maybe that way you have the suspense and you'll be coming next year too. So as you see, the theme this year is the theme VERGE. We had a little bit of a difficult time finding a theme this year. We had decided on another word, raw, that's it. And we, like raw, R-A-W, but then we changed it because we felt that we like to inscribe the theme in what is today's atmosphere in Greece or in the world, very loosely and poetically, of course. But there was something where we found that we were on the verge of maybe another consciousness. And after having gone through muted, and then we had love, and then we had risk, and then we had graft. And so verge came as a logical continuation. And verge is yes, on the verge of, on the brim of, but it's also possibly something where you spend a little bit of time. The verge is not necessarily you're on the verge. And like sometimes migrants say dream of going back, and it's an everlasting dream, but they're always on the verge of going back, and in the end they never go back. And I find that the best definition to explain the way we receive the word verge is in A.E.Stallings' Fear of Happiness poem that is at the beginning of the publication that you have. And she writes, but it isn't the unfathomable fall that makes me giddy, makes my stomach lurch. It's that the ledge itself invents the leap. resonates with us, that work of VERGE. And also, if you look at the painting on the publication, this is Abdi, and Abdi is on the windowsill. He's on the verge. There's a horizon opening, and he can look out, invent a pathway, but he can also turn back in. You see that it's inside a room, and so he's in the in-between that Orpheus at Paris called not here, not there. He makes up a new word like that, not here nor there. Voila, I will give the floor to Pavlina Marvin, Yiannis Doukas, and A.E.Stallings. They will read their dedicated poem, the poem that they created especially for us on the theme. And then after that, they'll go again with their published poems. I would like to ask you two things before. Can you turn off your cell phone, please? And at the end of the event, there's a guest book, and we're really happy when people sign the guest book. So it would be nice if you have a minute to just sign it. So, Pavlina, the floor is yours. Did everybody get a publication? Here.
Anyone else didn't take a publication?
Από τότε που άρχισε να με απασχολεί η υπόθεσή του, βάζω το ραδιόφωνο να παίζει σε μέτρια ένταση για να καταφέρω να κοιμηθώ. Ξυπνώ συνήθως στο άκουσμα μιας είδησης που είναι δύσκολο να ανακαλέσω αν ήταν πρωί ή μεσημέρι. Πάντως σίγουρα δεν επρόκειτο για απογευματινό δελτίο, γιατί η εκφωνήτρια, που τη φωνή της άκουγα για πρώτη φορά, ανακοίνωνε πως πριν λίγη ώρα, κάτω από το δυνατό ήλιο, σε ένα από τα φωτεινότερα σημεία της πόλης, 3 ερευνητές που απέφυγαν να δώσουν περισσότερα στοιχεία για τη χρήση και την πορεία της έρευνάς τους, ντυμένοι με πολυχρωματικά κουστούμια και μακιγιαρισμένοι με κοιλίδες μελάνης ρόρισα, αναπαρέστησαν με μόνο μέσω τη σύνθεση και τις δυνατότητες των σωμάτων τους ένα μέρος των αφηγήσεων για την περίπτωση του Ιβάν Ισμαήλοβιτς, όπως παρουσιάστηκε στον ημερήσιο τύπο. Πετιάχτηκα από το κρεβάτι με τη βεβαιότητα πως ο σκοπός τους δεν ήταν διαφορετικός από το δικό μου, να καταλάβουν δηλαδή τι συμβαίνει. Εκτίμησα πως θα γινόταν ατύχημα αν έπαιρνα το ποδήλατο για να φτάσω γρηγορότερα στο σημείο της αναπαράστασης. Και έτσι χρειάστηκε να το κόψω με τα πόδια. Πολύ σύντομα, γονάτιστα από το πεζοδρόμιο κλείνοντας τα μάτια, αδύνατο να υπολογίσω πόσος χρόνος πέρασε. Βρισκόμουν από ώρες πριν ακόμη ξυπνήσω, σε εκείνο που είναι η άκρη. Ευτυχώς, κανείς δεν προθυμοποιήθηκε να με τραβήξει από το έδαφος. Η δοκιμασμένη στάση παραπλανά πως πρόκειται για προσευχή. Όταν σηκώθηκα και έφτασα, σέρνοντας βιαστικά τα πόδια μου στο σημείο της αναπαράστασης, δεν συνάντησα κανέναν εκτός από το ραδιοφωνικό ανταποκριτή. Χωρίς να ρωτήσω, με ενημέρωσε πως η performance είχε τελειώσει και πως ελάχιστοι άνθρωποι που περνοδιάβαιναν παρακολούθησαν κατά σύμπτωση μικρά μέρη της. Ούτε και ο ίδιος πρόλαβε να συναντήσει τους 3 ερευνητές. Μου δήλωσε πάντως πως θα συνεχίσουν τη μελέτη του φαινομένου που ακούει στο όνομα Ιβάν Ισμαήλοβιτς. Ο ανταποκριτής ήταν δυσαρεστημένος με το γεγονός πως κανένας από τους ανθρώπους που παρευρέθηκαν δεν δέχτηκε να μοιραστεί τις εντυπώσεις του. Ήμουν έτοιμη να τον ρωτήσω πώς πληροφορήθηκε την ώρα και το σημείο, αλλά καλύτερα να σιωπώ. Από τότε που με απασχόλησε για πρώτη φορά η ιστορία του, με κατατρέχει μια από τις πιο έντονες έννοιες που θυμάμαι. Είναι κακή ιδέα να μαθαίνω περισσότερα από όσα ο Ιβάν Ισμαήλοβιτς θα ήθελε να γνωρίζω, γιατί βρίσκεται στην άκρη και αν φτάσει ως εκείνον πως γνωρίζω, ενώ παλεύει να ακροπατήσει. Θα σκεφτεί πως υπάρχει ένας μόνο τρόπος να διαφύγει, πέφτοντας στο κενό.
That you have it on the publication, so you can follow that.
Η ατλαντική κατάστασή μου. Θαλασσοψητακέ, του είπα, ποντοπόρε. Πήγαινες ως την Αρκτική, καημένε μου, κι αν υπεροκεάνιος, το μόνο σου αυγό διεκδικούσες. Αυλαία ο βράχος, πληγωμένη, και να θέλε να γίνει κοιμωλία και να βγάζε απάνω στο σκαρφάλωμα πνιχτή, βραχνή φωνή. Θα διασχίζεις τα κύματα, θα φτάνεις στον ουρανό του τράγου και στην αβάπτιστη φωλιά του τοκετού. Γιατί κι εγώ περπάτησα ως εκεί και είδα μια Ακρόπολη στο Χίλος. Και σοβαρά, δεν είχα τι να κάνω. Ανέσυρα της μιας προϊστορίας στη φοβερή ανάπαυλα, ηλιόλουστος στο μέσο της ανάσας. Το πέλμα μου σαν νόημα πετά μέχρι τα δυτικά και αποτυπώνεται ασθμένων και ιδρωμένων. Το γένος της χαράδρας, του ψιθύρισα, να περπατάς καμαρωτό κι ύστερα να βυθίζεσαι στη στάλα των αφρών. Φωλιάζεις σε σχισμές, μικρή μου καλογραία, και σκάβεις τα λαγούμια σου σε ολισθηρές πλαγιές. Θα επιστρέφεις, θα ψάχνεις το ζευγάρωμα του χρόνου, θα ύπτασες σε κύκλους και την άνοιξη, στην ξηροτέρα γη και την πατροπαράδοτη. Όδευα προς τη θάλασσα κι εγώ, αφήνοντας την κούρνια μου, με τέχνιο, προτού να αποδημήσω. Ήταν που μόλις είχα πτερωθεί και δεν θα ξαναγύριζα για χρόνια, καλοθρεμμένος και χορτάτος νεοσός. Μια νύχτα βγήκα, φάνηκα, περπάτησα για αρχή, όλο και πιο ταχαίως. Έτρεξα, μα δεν ήθελα και να απογειωθώ. Έφτασα στο νερό και ως να ξημερώσει έλαμνα δίχως κόπο και διάλειμμα. Μακριά από την ακτή δεν θα ψάχνα το είδος μου για να συναθριστώ, να λείπω ήθελα. Λουσμένος από το χώμα και κυρίαρχος της πόρτας σου φρουρός, του υπενθυμίζω, ενώ εκείνη ξεραίνει το χορτάρι μες στις σύραγγες, στη λάσπη σκόλη θρήματα να κάνει. Αχ, το ατλαντικό μου απολύθωμα, πόσο νερό χρειάζεσαι κρυψώνα. Κι εγώ, πώς έτσι κάμφθηκα, πώς από νέος ήμουν πιο θαμπός, τα πιο χλωμά μπαλώματα φορούσα, ο ρυπαρός ευάλωτος, εισπνέοντας κινδύνους, και πού να βρω 40 ψάρια την ημέρα. Κι αν ερωτοτροπούσα με το ράμφος μου, κι αν πάνω στο νερό αποκοιμιόμουν, κι αν γνώριζα πως θα γεννήσουμε αυτό που θα ζυγίζει ακόμη πιο πολύ και από το βάρος μας, κι αν έπρεπε εβδομάδες να περάσουν, ώσπου να γίνει όλη η ζέστη μας ρογμή, και πάλι θα θυσίαζα την πτήση, να είμαι κολυμβητής. Και πάλι θα συμβίβαζα το πτέρωμα, να είμαι πελαγικός, να είναι τα δάχτυλά μου σε μεμβράνες. Θαλασσοψητακέ, του είπα, ποντοπόρε. Εσύ πάντα το γνώριζες ότι δεν έχει τέρμα, πως όλο περαιτέρω θα διαβαίνουμε. Από όσα διαμήφθηκαν εδώ και από όσα υπενήχθηκε ο ορίζοντας, τι άλλο διδαχθήκαμε. Θέα στο ακρονάωτο του κόσμου και ό,τι τυχόν ξανάμαθα μιλώντας στα γκρεμνά.
Θα ήθελα να ευχαριστήσω την Άντζελα και την Καρίνα. Μεγάλη τιμή και μεγάλη χαρά να είμαι εδώ και να διαβάσω αυτούς τους κνήπες. It's a kind of unusual experience, I think, for poets to write something to a theme and
I was happy to hear what you had to say about working on the theme. If you want to comment just a little bit on that, was it really difficult for you, Pavlina, or I need to have a theme to work on, and then we'll go on to the second read.
It was more challenging than difficult, I would say.
Yeah.
I think this period is for all of us kind of a verge. I get really connected to the topic. And this is important because it's the true motivation to write something.
And Yiannis
Yeah,
had the misfortune of having the raw first and then the change.
Well, he did it for me just the day after, so I hadn't managed to write the poem yet, so it's okay. I mean, yeah, in a way, I mean, it was probably the first time I wrote something in that kind of a way that I had to write something on a specific theme for a specific event, but I always find that there's something liberating in the discipline that you get, and there's always something in your experience that can resonate with a specific concept. So for me, it was my luck of living in Ireland for the past 5 years. So the Atlantic Ocean was a natural verge of things, and then obviously you have things in your own personal experience that make you feel on the verge, and then you put yourself into the context of things happening. So it's in the end it was great.
What's the sea parrot? What did you take it from?
Well, the sea parrot, which also is known as puffin, is one of the seagull-like birds living in the Atlantic. So the mostly Ireland and Iceland and Canada. So it all came together in a way.
And Alicia,
I think it was maybe the most difficult poet to get the poem out of it. You were very gently kind of, we need to have this poem. And I do think that poets should be able to write to an occasion or to an assignment, and that's a kind of healthy thing for poets to do, as it makes us maybe more responsible to a certain level of public discourse. So I feel that, you know, it's something poets should be able to take on, and you do have to kind of give yourself permission that this might not be, you know, a perfect poem, and you have to sort of say, I have to, you know, do what comes with this. But on the other hand, it can be freeing, precisely because you're able to let go of certain parameters because you think, you know, I have to write to this theme. So I would not have written this poem at all if it had not been for this assignment. This is not something that I would have eventually written.
the structure somehow sometimes gives freedom. It offers that freedom. Pavlina, I was curious, who is Ivan Ismailovich?
This is a question.
All right, so maybe you can do the second round of reading. And,
Okay.
Η πορεία είναι κάτι σχετικό. Συντελείται χωρίς να προϋποτίθεται απαραίτητος ποδαρόδρομος. Πορεία σημαίνει πως ένας φύλακας άνοιξε την πύλη προς το μέρος χωρίς τη συγκατάθεσή μου. Ή πως ο χειμώνας επιβλήθηκε αυτοβούλος για να εξυπηρετήσει μια συνθήκη ομιχλώδους παγετού με φωτεινό σκοπό. Πληροφορούμε με ευχαρίστησή μου πως ο Ιβάν Ισμαήλοβιτς είναι ακατάλληλα ντυμένος για τις περιστάσεις. Έτσι ακριβώς, για να κατορθώσει την πορεία, πρέπει να ξεγελάσει τον εαυτό του, πως περπατάει αλλού, εκεί που βρισκόταν προηγουμένως, στην έρημο. ιδανική ιστορία. Με τον Βάλτερ γνωριστήκαμε τυχαία και έκτοτε κρατήσαμε επικοινωνία που με τον καιρό έπαιρνε να πυκνώνει. Εκείνος έμενε με την οικογένειά του σε ένα όμορφο αγρόκτημα στη Ζαπορίζια, κάπου στον 15ο αιώνα, και εγώ στο Κίεβο, σε ένα σκοτεινό διαμέρισμα του 15ου ορόφου το 1984. Για μεγάλο διάστημα είχαμε μια μάλλον πετυχημένη σχέση από απόσταση. Επικοινωνούσαμε κυρίως με πουλιά και με μπουκάλια. Καμιά φορά κατάφερνε να στριμώξει τα μουρμουριτά του μέσα από το στόμιο του νεροχύτη μου και εγώ με τα βίας έβγαζα τη φωνή μου μέσα από την καμινάδα του. Τα απογεύματα πίναμε σχεδόν μαζί. Εγώ ελάχιστο λικέρ σαρλότα και εκείνος ουίσκις και της βίνης, όχι κάτω από 4 μερίδες. Δεν κοιμόμουν χωρίς τη σκέψη του. Δεν ξυπνούσε χωρίς τη δική μου. Ο Βάλτερ, το ακριβό μυστικό μου, και αν στην αρχή δεν είχαν σημασία τα φιλιά που δεν παραδίδονταν, οι αποστολές όπως πάντοτε, σιγά σιγά, ξεκίνησαν να μπερδεύονται. Η κουκουβάγια συνέχισε να έρχεται τα βράδια, αλλά τα πόδια της ήταν άδεια. Έμοιαζε πλέον παχιά και δυσκίνητη. Η κορυφαία παρανόηση δεν άργησε. Μπουκάλι στην πανιέρα μου και το μήνυμα με κάρβουνο. Δεν μ' αγαπάς. Μπουκάλι στο σακί με το αλεύρι και το μήνυμα με φτηνό μολύβι για τα μάτια. Δεν μ' αγαπάς. Ο ουρανός και η θάλασσα κατάλαβαν πρώτοι, καθώς αρμόζει, και έπαψαν να πηγαινοφέρνουν τα μηνύματα. Έγινα εξαίρετη ιστορικός. Ξέχασα, χωρίς χαρά, αλλά και χωρίς λύπη. Την περασμένη εβδομάδα με κάλεσαν για την αποκωδικοποίηση κάποιου μεσαιωνικού χειρογράφου. Μου είπαν πως επρόκειτο για το ημερολόγιο ενός Μιλωνά. Οι τελευταίες φράσεις. Δεν το κατάλαβα ποτέ, Γκαλίνα. Εμείς είχαμε αλλάξει δαχτυλίδια και σε λίγο θα παντρευόμασταν. Στον υπεύθυνο αρχαιολόγο έγραψα πως βρήκα μόνον υπολογισμούς παρακολούθησης εσόδων. Άνευ σημασίας.
Νοικοκυρά. Πολιορκώντας από μέσα ένα τριάρι, πρωτοβουλία για παράθυρο θα πάρει και με τις γλάστρες στη βεράντα της θα ζει. Το μεσημέρι πάντα θα την ξεσηκώνει, θα νιώθει κάπως ξεχασμένη, κάπως μόνη, ώσπου στο τέλος θα καλμάρει καθένα. Θα δώσει χώρο στο παράλογο και όταν ανοίξει τον διάλογο με τάπηρο, πάνω σε πάπυρο θα αφήσει το όνομά της, κληρονομιά της. Βροχή θα σκέφτεται και πολυκατοικία και θα βυθίζεται σε μια μελαγχολία, Σαββατοκύριακο, τσιγάρο και καφές. Σε μια παρένθεση που θα χωράει τόσα, όσα δεν ήξερε ποτέ να πει η γλώσσα και όσα δεν μπόρεσαν να κρύψουν οι βαθές. Επιτάφιος. Γιατί τα γάλματα δεν είναι πια συντρίμμια, είμαστε εμείς, Γιώργος Ευτέρης. Μετά δε ταύτα, σβήσαμε τα φώτα, έγειρες πάνω μου απαλά και είπες, θα ζήσουμε μπαλώνοντας τις τρύπες της ιστορίας. Τίποτα όπως πρώτα δεν θα μπορέσει πια να ξαναγίνει. Τουλάχιστον, εκείνο το όπως πρώτα, καθώς το καταργούν τα γεγονότα και εμείς να τα αρνηθούμε. Τι θα μείνει σε αυτή τη γη, σε χρόνο ενεστώτα, από όλο το αναμάσιμα που λίγη ανάσα έχει ακόμα και μας πνίγει την ώρα που του στρέφουμε τα νότα. Στεφάνους καταθέτουμε και κλαίμε, μα είμαστε ό,τι θαύουμε, ό,τι καίμε.
did the VERGE, and Panayotis Ioannidis, who did these two, sometimes improving them. So this first little short poem is basically about sounds and birds, and if you're sort of looking or counting, it's also kind of in haiku-shaped stanzas. Sunset, wings. Sunset wings. Crows descry the sky, desecrate the cyanic, scrying and crying. Swallows I hear, not swifts, but swift, swoop, swivel, whose scissored silhouettes, belated, become a quibble of pipistrelles, tippling acrobats. Who haunts the hill, low, one note, woe, oh well, twilight throws in the towel. And I don't usually read this second one because I think in the book that it's in, it's kind of just a little epigraph to another poem, but it's about the story of Cupid and Psyche, which is basically Beauty and the Beast, with the sort of evil, wicked stepsisters and all this. Advice to Psyche, hem audex and temeraria lucerna, that bold and brazen lamp. Resist the ugly sisters and their wisdom. They cannot hold a candle to your flame. Keep your word so there will be no story. A happy ending ends it just the same. Be blind, uncurious. Resist the urge to look upon desire in the light, not lest it turn out monstrous and dark, but singed and beautiful and winged for flight.
So Alicia, since you mentioned the translation, in your poem, on the poem Verge, and the translation by Athens and Paris, he adds a lot of little notes about the bear, about the. So could you give us who?
I really appreciate. I like the fact that I got not only a translation but an annotated translation, and I think that makes a lot of sense because and also for English-speaking audiences, if you haven't been to the Temple of Brauron and you don't know about this wonderful, I mean, it was basically a boarding school for the well-bred girls of Athens. Mm-hmm. But they would go there at a certain point in life, before they were grown up, and they were called little bears. And if you have a little girl right on the verge of puberty or right before puberty, this makes a lot of sense. Mm-hmm. And that temple was all about crossing the threshold from childhood to womanhood, but also I think was a fun day out. Athenian families would go and make a big thing of giving away your Barbie dolls and everything so you could move on to the next stage of life. And I was there with friends and their daughter Myrto, as well as Atalanta, and to see the girls galloping around the site and realizing that they were exactly almost that age of those ancient girls, and how much they loved the wilderness and so forth. And it's a very vergy site because it's a wonderful wetlands, very important wetlands actually, which is under threat because people want to construct there. And you can see why, the ancient Greeks placed the Temple of Artemis, who's the goddess of wildlife, right smack in this beautiful kind of wetland area, although I guess it was closer to the sea at that time. And the little quotation is from a wonderful epigraph in the Greek anthology, the Palatine anthology, which is about a little girl's giving up her hairnet and her favorite ball, and the mother wants her to dedicate it, a girl to a girl, an unmarried girl to a girl, a virgin to a virgin. The idea that Artemis would also look over the girls when they pass into the next stage of life. And so I really kind of appreciated all of the annotation, and I really enjoyed the translation too, because I think he's done a wonderful thing where I have a kind of regular meter, and Orpheus decided to give a kind of more flexible, almost river-like thing to the line so that he could hit the rhyme. So I like both of the poems together. I prefer some things about mine and some things about the translation.
Do you, all the poets, feel that there is an independence to a poem translated, that your once translated a poem disconnects from its original writing?
Personally, I feel very grateful for the translations because I don't know how it happens every time. It gives me another perspective on the poem. I mean, it's like another poem written from the beginning. I can read it like it's not my poem.
It sort of feels the same way. I translated the poem titled in English by Atlantic State. I translated myself, and yet I found myself in some cases that something would not fit at all. I could write something new for the English language, or skip something altogether, and it sort of made me, in a way, it's the same poem, and yet it's a new poem at the same time. So it's always, even if you do it, or if someone else does it, gives you another perspective on yourself, but it also happens if you do it yourself in a way.
I want to ask the audience to, if they have things they're curious about and what the poets in their poems.
So, of course, I was again. So, you know, I was raised where poetry is something a little bit classical. I mean, I could relate to the poetry of Alicia. And, of course, English is my first language, so I also could enjoy the you know, sometimes it's rhyming, sometimes it's not rhyming, it's a little bit more freestyle. You, Pavlina, though, what you write, I mean, I'm wondering, why do we call it poetry? Why isn't it an anecdote? Why isn't it, maybe there's even a little bit of performance art in it, you know, as you did in the beginning, showing us the stuff. So, I mean, what is poetry? I mean, the more classical thing was that, you know, it's shorter, it rhymes, sometimes it's not, sometimes it's a little free, but yours is almost like narratives, really, right? So do you feel that you're closer to poetry, or are you closer maybe to writing small narratives, small, you know, stories, anecdotes, you know?
Well, it's true that my first book, called Stories from All Around My World. So yes, it's stories, though I don't believe that poetry has to do only with form. I mean, the only thing I can say is poetry is my beginning. What happens afterwards, I mean the text, you can perceive it as you feel. For example, we say that Papadiamatis, a very famous Greek prose writer, we say he's a poet. I believe he is.
Because of the way he uses words. Because of the way he uses words. Yes, but even your meanings are more opaque. For instance, the verge that this was. Alicia's poem was girls on the verge of womanhood. You know, there was a verge of traveling. I don't really understand in your poem. What was the verge? Who was on the verge of what? And maybe you did it on purpose, too, you know?
We can say it was about somebody whose life is on the verge.
His life was on the verge.
It's Ivan Ismailovich.
Yes, well, we've already determined is not somebody specific, right?
He lives among us.
He lives among us. And then your second poem was also about him.
It's a whole book.
Oh, so you have a whole book with a poem on it. Okay. So he's what we call in English an everyman? You know, suppose you take yeah, we call an everyman.
I think that they are very poetic. It's just because you've put them in paragraphs. Like, for example, the Ukrainian story, it looks like it's a novel. But if, for example, it's very poetic. Every sentence is like a, if they were cut, a lot of poetry is just cut into smaller lines, then it looks like a poem. It's more the visual side. But the words are poetry, definitely.
And it's true that I also write.
It's interesting that you put them in the shape of kind of
I
supposed
chose the shape. That was, I wanted to tell you that, for example, I also write sonnets, but I chose kind of sonnets, not really traditional ones. But for tonight, I chose 3 prose poems, but you can decide if it's poetry or not.
I think I'm sure it is poetry, but just the way it looks makes you kind of think it is.
I think it's one of the problem. I mean, English definitely has this problem of saying, poetry versus prose, where what you all, I think, are talking about is verse versus prose. Poetry can have narrative. The Iliad and the Odyssey are verse narratives, so that this is more about whether you're going to do something in lines or not. And that, I think, when we use poetry, it's so loaded, because I think what we mean is it great, is it deep, is it whatever, and we could use a much drier thing of this is verse, it's written in lines, this is prose, it's written, but you can have that lyric, poetic impulse in a paragraph, you can have something very dry and prosaic in a sonnet, so I think that's, for me, a
But
kind of
I
technical.
disagree here a little bit, because one of the things about poetry, and why it's so difficult for a person who's not a poet, is that the word, it's like every word in most poems, every word has a meaning, and what word you choose, and the way the words are put together. And the most beautiful and touching poems are like that. And you read a phrase and you read a poem and you think, oh my God, those 2 words together, or how did you put those 2 words together? Whereas when you write more in a more descriptive format, that element of poetry is not included, is it?
Well, I think it can be. I mean, you can read a perfect short story or Ulysses or Moby Dick or something and have things with that poetic intensity. So I guess I would disagree.
The moments, it comes, like if you think visual art, the moment can come like if there's a little pile of sand, or if there's Rembrandt or Rubens, or it's always the way it's loaded. I think the way you put the lens on the way you see or the way you hear things.
It was also very impressive that you memorized these things.
Yes.
And presented them like they were coming to you from another place. I found that very impressive way of doing it. And since I believe that poetry was originally a vocal thing rather than something you read, I found that also related to poetry in its first forms. And thank you.
Especially when you were listening to the radio, it was like as if the muse was delivering the message to many of us.
What was that, Pavlina? What was the significance, or how does it interfere in the poetry? Not
You
interfere.
mean
Yes,
sound?
to hold the phone with the sound.
That sometimes something very important is happening, and you're afraid that you will never remember every detail, and you have to say all this to somebody. So kind of recording and saying the thing at the same time. very difficult to explain in detail, but this is something difficult with memory.
Yes?
I have a question for Pavlina. To me, your stuff has a dreamlike atmosphere. Do you draw inspiration from our dream lives? Or is that completely out of...
I think it's a mixed thing.
Mhm.
I mean, dreamy and not, but it's not clear.
the way dreams are?
Mhm.
I had a question to Yiannis, because I was reading Caroline Duffy recently, and she did a lot of like Mrs. Sisyphus, Medusa, Circe, etc. And how do you work in Sappho the housewife? How do you take Sappho from way back in the antiquity and bring her? How do you do that? It's strange to me.
Well, in a way, first of all, I think that in essence, poetry is not just about our personal experience, but also about trying to imagine someone else's experience. We traditionally think that to create a character is something that only prose writers do in novels or stories, but in a way I think we have the right in poetry to also try and create characters and focus on them and see how that works. And my need at a specific poem, I think, was just to try go back to some kind of archetypal female figure. So Sappho, by being archetypal in herself, with her work, and also her biography since the ancient times, it was a symbol that allowed me to try and understand what a female, an everyday female experience, and also I was probably trying to sort of create some kind of contrast between the highly poetic and the mundane and the everyday experience, which can also encapsulate poetry at some times. And it's, I mean, everyday life is not something terrible. It also has some kind of rights. I mean, it has its own rights, I suppose.
And I think Alicia's poems,
Also,
with
I was going to
alliteration
her
and
too.
bringing the present moment to be so vivid, and you can look at it again and again, and it's still the present moment, and I think that's amazing. Of using the everyday, going to a site, household things. Alicia does this with such immediacy.
And how does it work in your head, Alicia, when you write, for example, the advice to Psyche? Do you try to reconnect with those ancient emotions, or do the characters, as Yiannis was saying, inspire you?
Well, that's a very old poem. I don't know if I can speak to it, but well, for instance, I guess they're not ancient emotions. That's the thing, is, you know. So I love the Cupid and Psyche story for many reasons, but I think that at the time I was really interested in it because Psyche is this kind of fairy tale-like character who has to do certain impossible tasks because she's burnt Cupid. But you know, she does things like she goes down to the underworld while she's pregnant. So it's a fairy tale, but unlike the Disney fairy tales, she's pregnant through all of the stories. And I think, you know, when I was going through it, I had children. The idea of this sort of being in the danger zone of a fairy tale, but while also carrying a child, was the thing that connected me to that. And I think usually when I'm looking at ancient stories, you know, there's something that feels very immediate, but sometimes I might actually try to be someone completely different. I think that's that's also very attractive. As a poet, you get a little bit tired of being in your own head and you want to be in someone else's head.
Can I ask a question? Can I start? Can I ask a poem? Can I ask a question?
or a poem.
That's all right. So, do you feel that living in Greece, you've lived in Greece for many years, from what I read in your biography, do you feel like, do you like to live here because you feel like you get inspiration from the Greekness, you know, the Greek stories, the Greek myths, the Greek, what's around you? Do you feel like this is something that you've enjoyed or you like examining in your poetry more?
Well, I wrote about Greek myth before moving here, and in a way I think it was easier when I was not living here, because there is the sense of everything still happening all the time. And the Greek reality, as my friend Adrian likes to call it, is very intense, and it has been an extremely intense time to be living here. We moved here in '99 when everyone was optimistic about joining the Eurozone. And to be here during the financial crisis and the refugee crisis and all of that, and to watch that, it's been very intense, and I don't know whether that's been an inspiration or maybe even an energy drain. I think I probably would be inspired, I would hope, wherever I am, but because I do live here, that is what I'm immersed in, and because I have this classical training, I guess there's a lot of, strange feelings of the diachronic of time periods rubbing shoulders and one era speaking to another era. So I that is something that is a creative engine, as well as I think, creative drain, to be honest.
It's interesting, we had a conversation in one of the previous Poets Agora about the fact that you read in the foreign press about Greece and this recession they've gone through and all this stuff, how it's been such a, groundbreaking for, there's the arts. There's a lot of arts, the flowering of the arts, how this crisis has given rise to this great flowering of the arts. And I wonder, really? The crisis?
It's a story. The media will get hold of a story, and then people will, that's like a story that people want versions of. I know this because I've been assigned to write about this. And I think some aspects of it are not wrong. I think people have had to be creative in different kinds of ways, and it may have helped loosen the kind of gerontocracy that was here before. If I may say that. I can as the outside poet. But a lot of poets left and lived abroad. That's one of the stories is the artists who have been living elsewhere because you can't make a living here. But part of it, and I'm married to the foreign press as well, that there ends up being a narrative, and people want to hear more about that narrative, and then it becomes a little bit self-fulfilling, but it doesn't mean it's untrue. It's sort of how journalism works.
I think it's really interesting what you were saying about time periods rubbing shoulders against each other. As a classicist and somebody truly in love with antiquity, and I find it, I wonder, I know we've had some conversations about this, but how difficult or what kinds of tensions take place when your knowledge and love of the period, as you're immersed in a very gritty reality of a Greece that's so different maybe from or not. Like, I know you've said at times that contemporary Greece makes you think more of the sort of Homeric period as opposed to classic period. So, how the challenges of the day-to-day contemporary moment rub against all of what you have, learned and loved of antiquity.
Well, I think it's made me reread antiquity living here, and I recently translated Hesiod's Works and Days, and it's about debt and work and hunger and corruption, and the exact same words, even, chreos and and kerdos, and so I think it's made me reread ancient things as modern or contemporary.
Yes, because after all, they had to deal with some of the exact same problems as we do.
Well, the ancient plays are really obsessed with asylum and refugees and things of that. I mean, it's kind of interesting that some of the same themes come up again and again.
Yeah, and why is it that these plays, the ancient plays, are being put on stage all the time around the world? Because the themes are the same, that people can relate to them. Antigone especially is one of the plays that is frequently in theaters in the West and elsewhere.
There's a book by Artemis Leontis about Eva Palmer Sicilianos, and they did this big festival in Delphi, and they staged like that with ancient plays, and there's a museum there. I learned that there's a museum of Eva Palmer Sicilianos and Angelos Sicilianos.
I want to ask Yanni and Pavlina, as Greek poets, how sort of a different version of what I guess I asked is just how, as Greek poets, how you channel. I know that you wrote his poem about Paul that you just read, but how does it feel as a contemporary of your generation? In Sophetis, he writes his poems in his exilic way and the way he channels Homer and the various personas that come up in his poetry. So in your sort of moment, how does the past revisit, or does it not? Does it feel like a burden, a liberation, a conversation?
Translate. So according to Pavlina, Yiannis Doukas says that when we write, we are 2,000 years old.
So we are connected with Homer and our past and European past and global past in every sense, in very special ways we cannot even investigate.
Should I also translate that into Greek?
In the alien language.
For me, as well, it's well, I do feel as a classicist also that actually the modern Greek relationship with ancient Greece was not just a smooth thing that went uninterrupted for 2,000 years. So in a way, I tend to disagree with Yiannis Doukas on that specific thing. A big part of our relationship with antiquity is something invented in the last 200 years, and in most cases it's also our reaction to how ancient Greece was seen by Germans and French and English. So obviously during these 200 years we created a relationship of our own, but it's not just one thing. It can be that we draw on ideas that are actually something belonging to the whole of humanity and not just our specific nation. It can also be that this relationship changes as classics become a rather marginal discipline in academia. And it can also be that we completely transform it into something that doesn't have any actual relationship with history. If I'm being honest, our relationship with antiquity and how we imagine the Persian Wars, or how we imagine Alexander the Great, especially in the last few years, or in far-right rhetoric, it's not something attractive at all. And as poets, I think we have to, at the same time, sort of create a relationship both with our personal understanding of antiquity and also the reception of antiquity in the country as happens now. And also, we also interact with receptions from other poets. I mean, we interact with your receptions as well. They are a very important part of our understanding of antiquity as it is. So,
I will trust the classicists.
will you? The classicists. But you have also studied history and archaeology, so you are.
It's not the same.
You had this in Greek.
But we have to talk about constructions, and the constructions in every way. I think it's very important what you mentioned.
And that's the kind of this book on Palmer Sekelianos is a lot about it. Yeah, this kind of cycle of ideas about antiquity that get fed into things and come back round, and how outsiders' view of Greece but affect people who are in Greece and vice versa, and how it's really very strangely interwoven in ways that one might not expect, both ways. I had a quick question for Yiannis, actually, when we were talking about poetry and verse, because you've got the prose poem and the sonnets and so forth, and if that feels like a very different process.
It's all, well, the poems in rhyme are earlier, and the poem I wrote for A Poets Agora is sort of one of the styles I try and write in at the moment. When I was writing in rhyme, I mean consistently and only in rhyme, it didn't feel at all as something that was, it wasn't something enforced on me. I felt free while doing it, although it was not free verse. So in a way, I get the same feeling writing both styles, each at its own time, but in a way it must be very different, but it's sort of like you evolve as a person and get a different understanding of the world. I guess you get a different understanding of the form you're writing and you find your expression. So it feels the same, but I know it's not. But it's like Heraclitus and Cratylus, so you can't go into the river, in the same river, twice or even once. So it's a bit like that.
I'd like to ask you something, if I may. I realize there's a common thread dealing with the theme verge. From what I see, as I see it, Pavlina, with her performance and the way of capturing the audience, it's like you utter a word, every syllable is important, and you live it. You live that syllable. And that moment is the here and now. That can't be dismissed. You live in the present. And Yiannis, he creates a reality by reminiscing about the past and bringing it in the present. And Alicia, the way I see it, your alliteration, the consonants that you repeat, and the selection of words, the musicality in your rhyme, because you have different styles. These again bring us in the present. And the way, from what you've discussed here about the ancient Greeks and the classics and the present, the themes that come and go, it's like we're trapped in an eternal present. And my question to you is, do you think we can escape this? Is there, like we have the theme verge and the definition, is, the way I see it is a space between borders, and it's like we're trapped in there. And we want to leave, but something holds us back. And we're not exactly free of the past, and we're not entirely open to the future. There's something holding us back. There's a thread in the past. Even our ancestors, we carry them within us. Even genes, even this crisis with the refugees. It's a non